Hey everybody, welcome back. We're tackling something today that I know a lot of you are thinking about a lot, and that's how to take your notary business to the next level. And that is by building those killer client connections that will keep them coming back for more.
Yeah. And we've got some awesome resources to break it all down. We're looking at a Coursera article on the top 10 customer service skills. There's this Stanford GSB podcast with David Brooks talking about empathetic communication. And then we have a piece from helpguide.org that's all about empathy. Plus, we found this super interesting article that really zooms in on how important those client connections are, specifically for mobile notaries.
You know, I love a good deep dive, and this one feels like a masterclass in building relationships that turn into real business growth. It's cool how, even though these sources are all over the place, they all agree that strong customer service is key, no matter what you do.
Totally. And that's super true for notaries because you're not just stamping papers. You're providing a service that people need for some of the biggest moments in their lives. That Mobile Notary Client Connection article really nails it, saying that the actual signing is like a make or break moment for building that relationship.
Right. So let's get into why this matters so much. This Coursera article had a stat that blew my mind. Businesses with top-notch customer service actually see their customers spend more. And for notaries, that could mean turning a one-time client into someone who comes back to you every time and tells everyone they know about you.
Exactly. As a notary, you're building a reputation based on trust being accurate and creating a smooth and positive experience. If a client feels rushed or confused or like they're just another appointment, they're not going to remember you in a good way. But if they feel heard and understood and like you really care about doing things right,
that's when you get those amazing reviews, repeat business, and word-of-mouth referrals that are pure gold for any notary. So how do we make that happen? Well, this Coursera article lists out 10 essential customer service skills, and some of them just jump out as must-haves for notaries.
I agree. Let's start with empathy. Coursera defines it as basically stepping into someone else's shoes, understanding their emotions and perspective. For notaries, this could mean realizing that the person sitting across from you might be stressed, or maybe they're not familiar with the process, or hey, maybe they're just having a bad day.
Totally. They even gave this example of a customer complaining about bad Wi-Fi, and the customer service rep was like, I totally get how frustrating that is. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
It's all about acknowledging how the person is feeling and showing you're there to help. It seems so simple, but it's a game changer.
And that translates perfectly to the notary world.
Yeah.
Imagine a client forgot a super important document or a signer's running late. These things happen. It's your ability to problem solve, which is another key skill from the article that can turn a potentially bad situation into a good one.
They use this example of helping someone reset their password in the article. They break it down step by step. It's about clear communication, making sure the client feels informed and supported the whole way.
Exactly. And that takes us to communication, another big one on the list. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it. Think about the last time you were at a coffee shop. Was the barista friendly and attentive and explained things clearly? Or were they bored and mumbling, making you feel like a pain?
We've all been there. Nobody wants to feel like they're bothering someone, especially when it comes to important documents.
It shows that communication goes way beyond words. Your tone of voice, your body language, even making eye contact and smiling can totally change how a client feels about the whole thing.
Two more skills that are huge, especially for notaries, are active listening and patience. The Coursera article uses the example of a restaurant host confirming a reservation. It's like, okay, so to confirm, you need a table for 4 at 7 p.m. at your downtown location. Bam, you've shown that you really listened and understood, so there's no room for confusion.
That's crucial for notaries, especially with legal documents and sensitive information. Active listening means not just hearing the words, but really getting what the client's saying, paying attention to how they're saying it, and asking questions if you need to.
And then there's patience. Oh, patience. This is where that story from the article about the spilled nail polish comes in. Remember that one? A customer messes up her fresh manicure right after getting it done, and the nail tech, instead of freaking out, just calmly fixes it. It's a perfect example of turning a bad experience into a good one.
It's a great way to show how patience can de-escalate a tense situation and make the client feel like they're in good hands. But sometimes creating those positive interactions goes beyond just solving problems in the moment. It's about really connecting with the client, making them feel seen and understood. And that's where I think David Brooks's work from that Stanford podcast comes in.
Ooh, tell me more about this David Brooks.
He's a really well-respected author and columnist who's all about the power of human connection. He talks about these people he calls illuminators.
Illuminators, what's that?
Yeah. They're like light bulbs, but for the soul. They're the people who make others feel seen, heard and understood. He gives this example of an amazing listener, someone who makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. And I think being an illuminator is a secret weapon for notaries because it's all about trust and rapport.
I love that. It's like you're not just notarizing documents, you're notarizing moments in people's lives. But it's not just listening, right? Brooks talks about asking really good questions to get past the small talk. He uses the example of asking someone, "How did you come to believe that?" It's a question that makes someone share their story, their values, the things that shaped how they see the world.
It's brilliant. It takes you beyond the surface and helps you connect on a deeper level. Instead of just talking about the weather, you're getting into something real.
And for notaries, especially those who are mobile and might not have a lot of time with each client, being able to build trust and rapport quickly is huge.
It's about realizing that every client has a story. And taking a minute to understand that story can make the whole interaction so much better. And that brings us to another big idea that we'll really get into next: empathy.
Okay, so we touched on empathy, but I'm excited to see what helpguide.org has to say about it. They seem to take it to a whole other level. Stay tuned.
So helpguide.org really goes deep on empathy and how it's more than just understanding someone's emotions.
It's about feeling those emotions too,
Yeah.
right? It's like tapping into that shared human experience.
Yeah, exactly. They use this powerful example of like a friend who's having a tough time with their boss. You don't just get why they're upset, you actually feel some of that frustration yourself.
That makes sense. But brings up a challenge that I think a lot of us face, especially in jobs where we work with people all the time. How do you balance being empathetic and professional without getting swamped by everyone else's emotions? It's like you want to be there for your clients, but you also have to protect yourself.
That's a really good point, and it's something helpguide.org talks about by explaining the difference between empathy and sympathy.
Okay, so what's the difference? They seem pretty similar to me.
Sympathy is more about acknowledging someone's pain and feeling bad for them. Empathy is about connecting with those emotions on a deeper level.
So if a client is super anxious about a signing because it's for something big, like buying their first home.
Sympathy would be saying, "Oh, that's rough. I bet you're stressed." Empathy would be remembering how you felt when you bought your first place and responding with like real understanding and reassurance.
Ah, I see the difference.
Yeah,
It's like sympathy is sending a card. Empathy is showing up with a casserole.
I love that analogy. And what's cool is helpguide.org points out that empathy has these amazing ripple effects. It's not just about that one interaction. It can create positive change that goes way beyond that.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me all the ripple effects.
Well, for one, they say empathy makes relationships stronger. When people feel truly heard and understood, it builds trust, and they're more likely to open up too. It's like that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So true. It's not just about being efficient or getting the job done. It's about making a human connection. And that can make a huge difference in building a loyal client base.
But there's more. Helpguide.org says that empathy can actually inspire other people to be more empathetic. It's like this chain reaction of kindness and understanding.
Wait, so being empathetic is contagious. I love that.
Pretty amazing, right? Your genuine empathy towards a client could make them more empathetic to others. And think about it, in a world that often feels divided and disconnected, that kind of ripple effect can be so powerful.
Mind-blowing. But helpguide.org also mentions that empathy can help with decision-making. How does that work for notaries? I'm having trouble picturing it.
Let's say you have a client who seems frazzled and keeps saying they're running behind. Maybe they're on the phone, their kids are asking for snacks, and they can't find their driver's license.
Oh, I can totally see it. It's
Oh.
like a movie scene and the tension is building.
Right. An empathetic notary would see those cues and maybe say, "Hey, why don't we take a 5-minute break so you can get things together? We can come back to this when you're ready." Instead of just pushing through and maybe making the client feel even more stressed, you're adapting to what they need in that moment.
Exactly. And that kind of sensitivity can make the whole signing go so much smoother, which is good for everyone. It shows that you're not just focused on the paperwork, you're thinking about the client's well-being.
So we've talked about how empathy affects relationships, how it inspires others, and how it helps with decision-making. What else does helpguide.org say? I'm seeing how this is so much more than just a nice idea. It's a real skill that can make a difference.
They mention something that's really important for anyone who works with people a lot, including notaries. Empathy can help prevent burnout.
Burnout, that feeling of being totally drained and overwhelmed, I've been there and it's not pretty.
We all have. It's common especially in jobs that are emotionally demanding. Helpguide.org suggests that empathy can actually help prevent burnout because it leads to better communication and collaboration.
So by being more empathetic, you're creating a more positive and supportive environment for yourself and your clients.
Exactly. When you come at things with empathy, you're less likely to get caught up in conflict or take things personally. You're able to see things from the other person's side and understand where they're coming from.
Makes sense because you're not just focusing on the behavior, you're trying to understand the motivations and emotions behind it. It's like zooming out and getting a bigger picture of the situation.
Exactly. And that change in perspective can make a world of difference in how you handle those tough interactions.
That makes me think of another point they made about empathy being a great tool for dealing with conflict.
Absolutely. Like when a client is frustrated or disagrees with something, instead of getting defensive, an empathetic notary would say something like, I understand why you're upset. Let's see how we can fix this.
It's so much better than saying, well, those are the rules. There's nothing I can do. That just shuts down communication and makes things worse.
It shows that you're not ignoring their concerns. You're trying to find a solution that works for everyone, and that can turn a bad situation into a good one.
So basically, empathy is this superpower that not only helps you connect with clients on a deeper level, but also makes the whole notary process smoother and more enjoyable for everyone. It's a win-win.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about seeing your role as a notary as more than just a transaction. It's a chance to create positive and meaningful experiences. And that goes back to what we talked about before, turning one-time clients into people who love your business and recommend you to everyone.
I love how it all ties together. So we've covered a lot here, and I'm curious what stood out to you the most from all this. What really clicked for you?
You know what really hit me was that helpguide.org makes this point that empathy isn't something you're born with or not. It's like a muscle you can build and get stronger over time, which is so encouraging because it means anyone can become more empathetic, even if it doesn't come easy at first.
That's great to hear. I was starting to think I need to go to empathy school or something to really get this.
And they even give you tips for building those empathy muscles, like really focusing on active listening, not just the words, but how they're saying it and their body language.
Which makes sense. Those are things notaries already need to be good at. We have to listen super carefully to make sure we're getting all the details right, and we're always looking for signs that someone might be confused or need help.
Exactly. So notaries are already set up to be empathy rock stars. We just need to be more deliberate about it and use those skills to connect better with our clients.
Okay, so as we wrap up this awesome empathy deep dive, I have one last thought from David Brooks that I think really applies to notaries. He talked about how powerful vulnerability can be when you're building relationships.
Yeah, it's funny because we often think we need to act perfect and professional, especially at work. But Brooks says that showing a little bit of vulnerability can actually make you more relatable and trustworthy.
So how could a notary do that, show vulnerability in a way that makes that client connection stronger? I'm trying to imagine it.
It doesn't have to be anything crazy or personal. It could be something small, like sharing a quick story that shows you're human.
Like if a client is signing papers for their first business, a notary could say something like, you know, when I first started my notary business, I was so nervous. But taking that leap was one of the best things I ever did.
Perfect example. It's not too much information or making it all about you, but it lets the client know you've been there. It's finding those little moments of shared experience.
And I bet that makes a client feel way more comfortable, especially if they're already stressed or unsure. It's like saying, hey, we're all in this together.
Totally. It changes things from just a business transaction to something more human. And that's what creates those good vibes that make clients come back to you and tell their friends about you.
So to all you amazing notaries out there, I challenge you to think about how you can be a little vulnerable with your clients. You might be surprised at how well it works.
And remember, empathy is a skill you can learn and improve. Keep practicing those active listening skills. Watch for body language, and don't be afraid to show your real self.
Love it. Well said. That about wraps up another deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to everyone listening. Until next time, happy connecting.